This operation to bribe Nigerian officials at the executive level was codenamed cultural arrangements. So that was what the bribe monies were called, cultural arrangements. And over a period of 10 years, 27 billion naira was distributed as bribe money in exchange for billions of dollars in contracts, such that over time, it became possible for TSKJ to continue to win contracts, up to 6 different contracts now, successively in the LNMPG project. A plant that started in 1989, I think, for $6 billion. We have since awarded so many other contracts. It's not just the top officers in the executive that were involved. This bribe thing was so well coordinated that even companies were also set up to facilitate this, and even the middle level and junior staff of the companies and people in public service were also factored into all of this. Agba, anything to add to all of that?
Wenga, that's a very beautiful chronicle you have given. But I would also like to briefly also talk to Baba Femi. Then I'll come to that question. And the reason is because this is a vantage opportunity for us to have him. I may not have another opportunity after now. So I'm not going to join those who, I see he has a very uncanny parapsychological ability to also detect anger on phone. And that is very interesting for me. And I am not angry. But I want to use this opportunity to talk to Femi in the hope that he will go and talk to Madam Farida Waziri. And Mr. Femi, I think what we are saying, the Nigerians, like never before in this history, have taken over the fight against corruption. That is why we are shouting. That's why we can talk. That's why you see, when they launched Anchor at the airport hotel in Ikeja, I was there as a person. For the first time, I identified with the EFCC by wearing the T-shirt and the cap. And I think it was very interesting. You saw the crowd. Whether the crowd was rented as alleged or not is not an issue now, but I think that I was there and I wasn't rented. I went there as a patriot. I went there to support the fight against corruption. But what we are saying is that now that Nigerian people have begun to support this cause, most often, when the fight gets to your door, it turns to a cooler where these matters are freezed. In other words, what I'm saying is that very often what we see is that, I'll give you a typical example. The example is that, look at the issue of the Vaswani brothers. We know in Nigeria that, yes, the EFCC has declared the Vaswani brothers wanted. But these same Vaswani brothers, their history is as old as the Halliburton case. And we believe, I personally believe that the FG has no interest in prosecuting these people because they have served as conduits for several government officials through several administrations. And if the Vaswani brothers have to go down today, several people will have to go down with them. So we feel that if the FCC wants to arrest the Vaswani brothers, they don't need to harass us every day by inviting the SSS and the police to say, help us get the Vaswani brothers. There are international treaties. The Interpol is there. There are several ways by which the EFCC can get the Vaswani brothers arrested, other than this unnecessary and needless media propaganda that makes you continually look as though you are not interested in doing anything. Another issue is that even from the inside, I lead people, and most of my people, as much as I discourage them from going overseas, some of them, in their attempt to do visas, they get duped. We have written petitions to the EFCC to help us reclaim some of these monies. And sometimes what we hear is that the money is not enough to get our own courts. And so they tell the director to take the matter to the police. Now, both from the inside and from the outside, we are getting the impression that the EFCC is no longer the way it used to be 3-4 years ago. There was a time we were all clapping for the EFCC in this country, and the only people that were not clapping were those that were affected. They were those that were beneficiaries of those who were stealing money. So one way or the other, all of us were clapping for the EFCC. And the fear of the EFCC was the beginning of wisdom. But today, the story seems to have changed. That is why we are saying you must live up to your responsibility. We are not saying that the fight is only for the EFCC alone. No. The rest of us are also fighting. But there are certain things that we cannot do that the EFCC have been statutorily empowered to do. And you are the only ones that can do it, that you are not doing. That is what we are asking. Look at the ICPC. It is a clamor by the people that has led to what the National Assembly is trying to do today, to further empower them so that they can go ahead and investigate without petitions. Because under the law now, they cannot begin to investigate any case unless they have petitions written to them. But because of the way people are shouting, Nigerian people are shouting, the National Assembly is thinking about empowering them to also begin to do it the way the EFCC is doing it. Go ahead and investigate even without petitions. So what we are saying is that we support you, we love what you are doing, but reinvent the EFCC that we used to know 3-4 years ago. They had their own limitations, they had their own excesses, but at the end of the day, we were clapping for them. And it is only those who were stealing our money that were not clapping. Here we come back to the matter, Halliburton.
Yes.
3 companies registered in Madeira in Portugal with a specific rule to come and negotiate bribes the Nigerian way. And they called it cultural, meaning it is a culture in this country. Once you are willing to do business the Nigerian way, go and negotiate with them and pay bribes. And now, if 28 billion, according to Benga, or some other report said 30 billion, the equivalent of 30 billion, $180 million in bribes. For God's sake, this is the money that these people are using to harass us all over the place. If you check those who have held public office in Nigeria in the past 9 years of this democracy, they have stolen much more than what the military stole. As corrupt as General Sani Abacha was, the budget that General Sani Abacha read, the annual budget that he used to read, is what is allocated to some ministries today. So what is told, and Abacha, the highest budget he read was in the region of 500-600 billion. Today we hear budgets of 1.9 trillion, 1.3 trillion, and at the end of the day, these monies end up in people's pockets through bribes, through contract inflations, through all manner of things that they are doing in government. And at the end of the day, the only thing the EFCC is doing every day is help us arrest this one, we declare this one wanted. There is no prosecution again since Nuhu Ribadu left the EFCC. No successful prosecution. And I think that is what the Nigerian people are saying. Over this matter, America is even being graceful to us. They have been very, very graceful to us. The Attorney General gave us a very funny one last week. He said that as a matter of fact, it's the Nigerian government that should be prosecuting Tesla and co. and the Americans for tarnishing the good image of Nigeria. Can you imagine that very funny story? I think there is the Americans that should be charging Nigeria for tarnishing, in fact, for negotiating bribes with their own citizens. It was a very funny one, and that is why I am convinced, I believe, and I remain pessimistic, that the Attorney General cannot add any value to this matter. If there is any other thing that the EFCC can do, let them go ahead and do it. People have confessed that bribes were paid, companies were deliberately incorporated to come and negotiate bribes in Nigeria. That is enough for us to take on some people. The name of President Obasanjo has been mentioned by Jeffrey Tesla, and I think the EFCC should move ahead, investigate him, and bring him to book. Let him be taken to court. Let him go to court and clear himself. If he's not guilty, let the court tell us that General Obasanjo is not guilty. But I think we will not be satisfied until the EFCC goes ahead and make sure that some people are brought down over this 180 million. Because if you check it, look at the home own. If you look at the properties that some of these public officials own, for God's sake, we know how much their salaries are. It is true in this country that IBB, through his legitimate earnings, could not have built his hilltop mansion. It is true in this country that some people who have held ministerial appointments in this country will not be able to own the things they own today from their legitimate earnings. It is also true that some people who graduated in 1991, 6 years after they became multi-billionaires who are contesting election in Nigeria and donating billions to political parties, the EFCC should begin to ask questions. Call these people and sit them down. What were you doing? Multiply the figures and tell us how you managed to get this amount of money. That is what we expect you people to be doing. And then you should also know that Nigerians are standing behind you once you are ready to work for us. We will clap for you. But we have this impression that you people are busy covering up some people under the guise of due process.
Thank you so much.